What if anxiety is just who I am? What if this is just my personality? What if I'm just wired this way? And if you've ever thought that, this video is for you, okay? I work with spiritually aware women who are terrified that anxiety is their identity. It's just who they are. And here's what I need you to understand, okay? And I'm going to be diving really deep into why this feels like an identity problem, okay? And let me know, like hands up, let me know if any of this resonates with you, because I know that I've been down this whole journey as well. I've been here, this resonates with me. I've always been anxious. It's just my personality. I was born this way. Anxiety just runs in my family. Or the latest one that I've been hearing on repeat, that anxiety is just normal. Everyone struggles with anxiety. Okay. So if any of this resonated, of course it feels like you. Of course it just feels like you were destined to feel anxious. You were destined to struggle with anxiety. Okay. And here's some that's kind of misunderstood, and what people don't really realize is anxiety is actually a learned survival response. Let me repeat that again. It's a learned survival response. Now, that sentence alone basically just confirms that it's not an identity. You're not just an anxious person, okay? And I'm saying this, and I struggled with anxiety for over 2 decades. Yes, 2 decades. So over 20 years, I struggled with severe anxiety. And here I am telling you, it's a learned survival response. You can become anxiety free. You can overcome the struggle of anxiety. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Okay. So, what do I mean by it's a learned survival response? Okay. It's created when the nervous system experienced something as unsafe and never got the chance to fully complete or resolve that experience. Okay. So let me dive into this a little bit deeper to make it understand. And I'm going to give you an example so you really understand. Okay. But what I also want to say is what happens so often is anxiety is alchemized from anxious energy. And if you don't let the energy fully complete in your body, it stays stuck in your body. Like, who else has read the book? Your body keeps a store. Your body keeps the score. It's a very accurate representation. Whatever you don't allow to complete the full cycle, it's going to stay there. And I mention this a lot, and so many spiritual women put a band-aid, and the band-aid method is they'll reframe, they'll clear it out, and not at the roots. What they do is, I'm going to say some affirmations, I'm going to do some meditating on it, I'm going to do some shifting my state so I don't feel this emotion. And what they're essentially doing is putting a band-aid on it. They're not allowing this emotion to fully complete. So therefore, the next time something triggers you or happens in your life and you're maybe deeming it to be unsafe, you're going to have that anxiety survival response. And this could be from a very small thing, from like the kids not listening, a dog barking, people not listening to you at work. Like, it can be very mundane stuff that triggers this anxious response. And you're like, this is crazy. I'm a mature, smart, intelligent, spiritual person. Why am I feeling anxious? Okay. And I know for one, I've even put into GPT before I cleared the root cause. Why am I feeling anxious? I'm doing EFT, I'm meditating, I've been in the healing space for over 10 years. Like, what is going on? And this is because spiritual women, especially, or if you're in the personal development, does that band-aid method. Okay. So the other thing I need to dive deep into about what I mean about a learned survival response, okay? And this may or may not happen. And it's just an example of it. So you can shift it to what might feel true for you. So, for instance, there might be a mum at home with their toddler, maybe a 2-year-old toddler. She's happily in the kitchen making some breakfast or something. The kid decided to wander outside. Perfectly normal, isn't it? The kid gets curious, opens the front door. Let's just pretend this kid can open the front door and walks outside onto the road. Now, hello, I'm a mum of 5. A mother's instinct, and this mother, if this is a real story, would freak out. Oh, going to get hit by a car, and runs and bolts to save their kid. Now, that could happen. That's if you've got kids, you know that feeling so well. Oh my God, don't do that. Don't touch that knife. Oh my God, don't pick up that. That's like we have this knee-jerk reaction to so many things. Now, it comes from a good place. It comes from saving our kid. However, our kids, okay, are unconsciously picking up on that anxious energy. We are anxious. And this is why we teach that anxiety is a normal response. It is a part of the human experience. Anxiety is there to serve us on so many ways. Okay. And so it's very normal for us to feel anxious when we think there's going to be harm done to our child or it's an unsafe thing that they're about to do. It's going to protect us and it's going to protect them. However, this child who has no idea why you're feeling anxious because they haven't learned about the world or life and because they're kids and they're dependent on you, they have picked up your anxious energy. And they've never completed the cycle because they didn't understand why you're anxious. They didn't understand. So all they did is they went on high alert, red alarm going everywhere, going, oh my God, it's unsafe, unsafe, unsafe. And then they have stored that identity of being anxious energy. Now, they have no idea what's triggering them. Okay, so for instance, they might be walking on eggshells because they don't know what was unsafe in the kitchen around the cutlery. Why was it unsafe to do X, Y, and Z? They might always feel anxious whenever an animal goes near them and they have no idea why. So you're going to see that there's endless reasons of why, because these kids download their parents' anxiety as if it belongs to them, okay? And I'm not saying this if you don't have kids, whatever. The point is that could have happened to your parents. So for instance, I've got clients at the moment and we're working through a lot of, they're clearing so much of their anxiety and they're even clearing and realizing that the anxiety they've been holding, they've been going to the root cause and really realizing the anxiety they've felt their whole entire life has actually been their mum's. Okay, so this is why it's a learned survival response. We've downloaded our parents or society or someone else's anxiety as it's ours as a survival response to protect us, because we're constantly, this is what I've said in previous emails and previous videos, we're constantly wanting to avoid pain, and anxiety does that perfectly whenever we think it's unsafe. Okay, it's like warning bells. And I truly believe that anxiety is like a warning signal. It's trying to communicate with us. And we can either rise above it and to communicate and be in relationship with it, so therefore it no longer holds us. Or every single time that signal goes off, we go in fight or flight. We allow it to control us. We allow it to run our lives. We put the Band-Aid method, like, nah, not safe, not safe, because we're too scared to go deeper, okay? So anxiety isn't who someone is. It's not an identity thing, even though that's what the majority of people believe, okay? It's just what your body has learned to do to keep you safe, or in other words, your nervous system, okay? It's trying to protect you at all costs, okay? And your body has learned this response. It's learned being on alert. Road is how you survive. It's how you stay safe. That is, and it's kind of like internalized, like that is the way you live, okay? If I just do this, no harm will be done. I'll be good. Everything will be okay, okay? But patterns repeated long enough, of course, they're going to start to feel like personality, okay? Constantly going through this, and this is the way you're living your life, and all these thoughts and beliefs, it does, and that's what forms the personality. That's what forms identity. So anxiety is not who you are. You've just created that identity based on how you've been living your life, okay? So anxiety is literally just a survival pattern. It's trying to talk to you. It's trying to protect you. And it's not a personality unless that's what you're choosing to believe, okay? You just learned to live this way. And just a little bit about me, I told you, for 20 plus years, I struggled with anxiety. And a lot of the times, looking back, healing the root cause is Anxiety wasn't me. I picked up on anxiety from my parents were anxious, very anxious people. So I took that down as me. I really thought that, and I said that story so many times, I'm just an anxious person. I'm just prone to anxiety. It's just who I am. And I allowed that to run the story so much. And it wasn't until I started doing the deep work of what's causing it. Okay. Because for 10 years I was in the healing space, I was doing the band-aids, I was shifting it, I was like clearing that anxious energy, like, doing all the things. And then it's just like, sick of this. I'm so done of constantly having to, it was kind of like a job, constantly working on my energy, working on this, working on that. And then when I started looking at the cause, what was underneath all that, what created this in the beginning, shifting and clearing that, I then realized that I'm actually not an anxious person. I stopped feeling anxiety. I stopped feeling anxious. Do I still feel anxious every now and then? Yes, because life happens, things happen. Okay. However, I also know how to clear that out. So when it comes, it only comes for a couple of minutes at a time because I know how to rise above it because I know what's created it. And I've honestly seen women who believed anxiety was their personality for decades. Okay. And like I said, I had a client recently and she just couldn't understand why was she anxious so much. Okay. I've had clients come to me just taking Valium daily just to stop feeling so anxious all the time. And when we cleared the root cause, when we got to understanding where it actually came from, the anxiety disappeared. They stopped being in control. They stopped losing their control, or it kind of just vanished. It disappeared. And the way that that showed up in their life is they triggered, because triggers are part of life. But instead of reacting and spiraling and going down this whole worry room, they felt calm in triggering moments. They're no longer replaying conversations in their head all the time. They're not constantly like a dog scanning for threats, scanning for something to harm them, trying to, kind of like that saying, waiting for the other shoe to drop, scanning. When's that shoe dropping? What's going to happen? They're no longer on high alert. But instead, they started going through their days feeling light, joy, fun. You could see the glow in their face. I've had clients say just after clearing this, they've lost weight, better relationships with their partners and their family members, felt peace for the first time in years. One client started getting promotions and getting paid higher. It all starts with just clearing the root cause of what has created this. Okay. And if this resonated and you've done years of work like me, but still feel stuck, I create a free workshop explaining why awareness alone doesn't create belief and what actually does. Okay. So I'll link that in the description. And also I want you to go and check out the video, and I'll link it to this video as well, why spiritual women still struggle with anxiety and what they need to do instead.